I'm the parenting lead, the module lead for the parenting interventions for child externalising disorders, for conduct problems, conduct disorder, oppositional defiant disorder. I'm going to give a brief overview of this, and I'm very happy to talk to anyone in the coffee break or email me and talk with your service leads or commissioners about it as well, because one of the things when you think about the conduct disorders, they are the most common mental health disorder in childhood, but many services aren't really picking up those children yet. So we do need to think a little bit about how, if you were to do this module, how it sort of fits into the broader service provision. There's a huge need out there for evidence-based approaches for conduct problems, and a lot of services are waking up to the need to respond to that. So this is a very good way to do it, and I'm very happy to talk to yourself as practitioners, but also to commissioners as well who might be thinking about how to develop a conduct disorder pathway. So conduct problems are the most common referral problems across health and social care agencies, and it's about 5% of children have a conduct disorder. So in an average primary school, you're going to see quite a lot of kids who present with clinically significant conduct problems, as well as more with ones who are at or around the threshold. It's a very, very common presentation. And it's a sort of headline presentation. People spot kids with conduct problems because they're aggressive, antisocial, they stand out. But it's also a signal for other comorbid problems. Kids with conduct disorder aren't just bad, they're often also sad and have a bunch of other issues as well. I mean, they often occur with ADHD, very highly co-occurring with ADHD, hyperkinetic conduct disorder. Also other developmental problems, learning disabilities, and academic difficulties, but also the internalising problems, things like anxiety and depression. These kids are often not just aggressive, but carrying with them some degree of sadness and anxiety. So we can notice children with conduct problems because they stand out. And one of the things we want to do in the course is definitely help you to think about how to treat the frank, aggressive, disruptive, antisocial behaviour problems, but also notice and be aware of the other things that go alongside it with these comorbidities. And they may need to be treated as well for these services. A conduct disorder can affect any area of the child's life and has the potential to be a lifelong disorder at start. So we're thinking this course is designed for children from 3 to 8, 3 to 10, that sort of age group. And it's a window of opportunity because the evidence base we have for parenting in this cohort is actually very, very good. Left untreated, conduct problems have the potential to be lifelong and have the potential to cost society a lot of money. And the truth is that a lot of conduct disorders recover over time. There's a burst of difficulties through the younger age group. A small number of those persist into adulthood. A lot of kids will eventually sort of come off the sort of conduct disorder pathway, but not without cost. There's kids who do eventually get a bit better. They miss out on education, they miss out on peer socialisation and the ability to develop normal relationships. And we've got research that shows now that kids who recover from conduct disorder sort of over time, they don't necessarily have, some of them have mental health problems, a lot of them don't have mental health problems, but they do have difficulties in career, in terms of their relationships, higher rates of domestic violence, and other sort of bad aspects of life. So from a mental health point of view, this disorder, if left untreated, will often rectify, but it leaves a legacy behind on that child's development and social functioning. So this is why the cost to society is high. If we can get in during this window of opportunity in the primary school years with these range of very good evidence-based programs, which I'll tell you about in a moment, we have a real opportunity to turn that child's life around and their experience of being in a family, their experience of being in school. So what we want to do with this programme is to give children and their families access to highly skilled practitioners who can assess conduct problems. And a lot of conduct problems with these comorbidities with social and the risk factors that go alongside them, these children are quite present with complex issues that need to be thought about and formulated carefully. That's one of the things we really want to try and do with this course as well, give you the ability to think about conduct problems, but think about the context within which they occur and how to address that comorbidity. It's a very common disorder. We have very, very good treatments for it. We've had nice guidance, National Institute of Clinical Excellence. We had clinical guidelines a couple of years ago. There's a link to it there. But even before that, about 10 years ago, we had a technology appraisal. And technology appraisal was when NICE looks at bits of kit. It looks at things that, usually things like heart valves or hip replacements. But they did it for conduct disorder because the programs that we have for addressing conduct problems are such good bits of kit, they're so well established that they had a technology appraisal in their own right. So we've known for a very, very long time that the approaches that we're going to suggest using in this program are sound, highly evidence-based. They really are extremely good. They're being tested out in large numbers of high-quality randomised controlled trials, the gold standard way of looking at the effectiveness of interventions. And the thing that the NICE guidance talks about, and something that's lacking, I think, in a lot of provision for conduct disorder, where it is provided, where people are trying to address conduct problems, it's the idea of there being group and individual programs. We know about group-based programs, they're fantastic, they've got a huge evidence base, and they really do work. But the NICE guidance also suggests individual parenting programs. It's the same principles, they're all based on this idea of social learning theory, plus some other bits, but social learning theory is the core mechanism or that active ingredient of these treatments. But it's important to think about the fact that with complexity, some children may not benefit from these group-based programs. They may need to be thought about as an individual case. And that's one of the things that we specialise in our module. I think maybe sets us out from the other HEIs around the country is how much we focus on these on the individual parenting programs and personalised parenting programs. And they're the things I'm most interested in as well. So I'll try not to oversell them, but it's an opportunity to work with a parent and a child live to shape the interactions with the child without having in the room live in front of you, sort of hands-on shaping of the way they interact. So these are the NICE guidelines. There's also some guidelines for ADHD, and that's of interest because the first-line treatment for children with ADHD is parenting, a social learning theory-based parenting program. Second line, moderate severe cases, the recommendation is medication alongside behavioural programs as well. So although it's the headline conduct disorder program we'll be talking about, it's also very useful for kids with ADHD in the absence of conduct problems. Medication is part of the mix, but the parenting also needs to be alongside it. So what we would do in our program in terms of the two programs we talk about, the group-based programs is the well evidence and credible years that Emily talked about just now. It's the, if you like, the go-to program for the group-based program. It's been around for a very long time with a huge evidence base for addressing issues with conduct problems and ADHD as well, and also improving pro-social child behaviour and increasing positive parenting. It's a really good program, and you'll see many places are delivering versions of this already. But what you'll get coming here is there's actually a sort of a ratified and official training route, and we can provide that on this training course. We will give you the accredited trainers, and you'll get supervision from the accredited Incredible Years supervisor, which means that you'll be able to go through and use the training to get your own Incredible Years accreditation and go through their accreditation process and hierarchies if that's something that you want to do. We also deliver an individual-based parenting program. It used to be called the Parent-Child Game. We changed the name now to PIT, Personalised Individual Parent Training. And it's the same active ingredient, as I say, in the bottle, in the program, but it's just delivered in a one-to-one basis, live, parent and a child, and you can either use, like we do in the clinic, an earpiece, and be in another room and whisper things to the parent, or you get down on your knees next to the parent whilst they play with their child and whisper comments and shape their play live in real time. It's a very nice way of working because you're actually seeing your effects there and then. You're seeing if things aren't quite working, you immediately get the opportunity to change it and alter it, and moment-to-moment feedback. It's a very, very powerful and satisfying way of working with parents and children. Now the NICE guidance says use group-based programs except where there is either complexity or reasons why families might have difficulty engaging. It doesn't actually give you much more guidance beyond that. It just says where things are a bit tricky, you need to think about doing these individual parenting approaches. And as I say, not many places teach individual parenting programs. So that part of the NICE guidance is not usually followed up on. And as I said, there's not much guidance in the NICE guidance as to what constitutes a complex case that requires individual parenting. But we'll cover that in our teaching. And we'll think about the kind of issues you need to factor into the formulation to understand which families are more likely to benefit from a group-based program and which are more likely to benefit from an individual-based program. Some maybe need both. So the course overview is to be confident with social learning theory constructs that sort of underpin all the effective parenting programs. Conduct disorder, to know when group versus individual approaches are indicated, and to be able to assess not just frank behaviour problems, but think about the family context as well, what their needs and the associated conditions that are co-occurring with that. But most of all, the thing that most interests me, and I hope would interest you to do this course, is the idea of using formulation to personalise treatment. It's not. Very often people see conduct disorder and they just give them a sort of standard parenting program. That's fine for a lot of people, but there are a lot of cases who need a lot more thinking, and they need the treatment to be personalised to their family, to that child. And that's where it gets very interesting and I think exciting. And that's something that we want to keep coming back on in this course. And the core skills module is also very helpful for thinking about the idea of personalising and using formulation to do that as well. So what does that involve? Of course, teaching involves structured lectures and workshops. You get the theory stuff and you also get sort of hands-on practice. We do a 5 years incredible years teaching, which gives you the preschool and the older age groups, a 2-day and a 3-day, so you get the age range, whole age range covered. We do a 5-day personalised individual parent training teaching, broken again into 3 days and 2 days, sort of 3-day initial program, and 2 days a bit later on. We've been doing it for a while to have a booster and address some of the barriers or issues you may have come across. And the university provides 2 forms of practice tutoring. We get the group incredible years supervision from an accredited IY supervisor, and we also have a small group of 2, 3 of you at a time with a PIP supervisor to review your individual cases. So it's actually quite supervision heavy because they can be going on at the same time. Some days you come into the university, you won't be having lectures or workshops at all, the whole day of supervision because you're doing IY in the morning and the PIP will do sometimes core skills in the afternoon. I think that's quite a nice way of learning. It's not just me standing up and talking to you. I do a lot of that, to be fair. But there's even more sort of hands-on practice tutoring, looking at videos and thinking about your skills as well. The assessment for the parenting module specifically involves case reports. You don't do these until the 2nd year. It's a 2-year course now. The core skills occupies the 1st year of the course, and the parenting, the specific things from the parenting module come into play in this, the 2nd year. We want to watch videotapes. We feel it's important to us to watch whole session tapes of both a group program, which is quite long, so it can be 3 hours long, a group program, and an individual PIP session, which can be anything from 35 minutes to an hour and a half, depending on what you're doing. So we watch 2 sets of those videotapes. We can see how you structure the whole session. how you use those core skills as well as the parenting skills right the way through it. And also 2 written case reports, 2 based around individual parenting, there's a PIPT programme, and a longer one about the group programme. The group programme one needs to be a bit longer because we want you to think not just about parenting and outcomes, but also elements around the group process, what's happening in the group and the group dynamics and how that changes over time. Because, you know, there is a, you know, the group in itself is a component of the treatment. It's important to think about how the group processes unfold as well. That's my last slide. So, a quick overview. Any questions you want to ask me now about conduct disorder? Thank you.